Welcome to the Femdom Revolution podcast, where we believe that authentic power exchange relationships have the potential to transform lives. We're here to adopt a new approach to Femdom that encourages men and women to step into their power. After all, you have to have power in order to exchange it. I'm Seasoned Traveler, and together we're creating a revolution in love, leadership, and life. Welcome back. If you didn't join us on the last episode, we talked about creative and sexual energy, which essentially is the life force energy. And today we're going to talk about the foundational practices and personal transformations experienced by both subs and doms through channeling creative and sexual energy. I've got here with me two of the Femdom Revolution goddesses, Essie and Creatrix.
Hello. Hi. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about what some of the benefits are from holding and redirecting sexual energy and how you ladies as doms can guide your subs in that endeavor.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, some of the benefits, and we'll dive into this a little bit more later in the podcast, but it is often explained as clarity, greater sense of clarity and strength. And that's not just physical strength, which it can be too, but mental and emotional strength and resiliency as well. And another piece that we talk about often, which I feel like is a very feminine way of describing this greater thing, but it's this glow that men often have when they're holding that energy, that power, and not leaking it, which we will talk about later too. So that man then becomes more vibrant, more alive. He's attractive. He's more himself because he's holding and harnessing that energy. So those are some of the benefits that men and women as well can look forward to when they learn to work with that energy. Now, as a dom, working with men in this arena, we are leading them in how they can hold and harness that energy, guiding them. And obviously there are some differences in how we do that, but doms and women in this industry often have a pretty good understanding of the geometry of a man and how we can support him in learning his own way. So the first thing I will say for the doms is we have to lead by example. So we need to be able to do the work ourselves and then guide the subs in their awareness of this energy. We can't guide somebody if we're not aware ourselves. So we have to hone in and put this practice into practice.
So basically have our own way of already working with our sexual energy and our creative energy.
Yes.
Have our own foundation set.
Yep. We need to be responsible with it before we can tell someone else to be responsible with it. Otherwise, that would be very irresponsible. So when we are guiding our subs, we have to remember that most men do not have role models teaching them how to do this. Most men don't have other men that are telling them how to navigate this energy and this part of their nature. And so more likely than not, men act out of line and they misbehave or they misuse this energy and power. And it can feel very offensive as a woman when we are in the line of fire, or air quote, because I don't really like the victim thing, but to lightly use that word, fall victim to a man abusing that power, which can also be very heavy. So the air quote, give or take the air quotes. But we have to keep in mind that it's not usually a personal thing. We have to have some and give these men some grace and appreciate the fact that they're learning and they're bound to make mistakes. And so when they misuse that energy, we can use it as a learning opportunity, a teaching moment. First thing I would say is to stay present and not react immediately, because we are going to have this embodied reaction. There's a wave, that first wave, we kind of have to observe it instead of just roll with it. So don't react immediately, and then use that moment to communicate and connect. And the first point of connection is with ourselves. So communicate with ourselves. Okay, whoa, this thing happened. This is what I'm experiencing. This is how I'm feeling about it. How do I use this moment as an opportunity to connect with that other person instead of distance and kind of degrade the relationship, because that energy could be acidic or burn the relationship. So we need to be able to actually let it be this fertilizer, this opportunity.
It's really interesting too, because by allowing ourselves to do that, basically by taking a moment and not reacting, that's really what we would have expected from them or what we'd like to see in them.
Mm-hmm.
And so by taking that moment and also not ignoring it, right? We're not going to push away the connection.
Yep.
We're going to see, how does this actually make me feel? How is this affecting me? Okay, now I can like bring that with my partner, like talk about that with my partner. So it really is having to go through the process ourselves in order to even meet them there.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're both just shooting off crazy.
Yeah. Bouncing off of each other,
Mm-hmm.
toxic, and it snowballs in that direction, and that's less than ideal. So that's the responsibility in the leading by example, right? Like when a guy has, very good point, because when a guy has this like urge, this sexual carnal urge, if he just reacts, doesn't take a moment to like pause and be with that and think and consider, that is usually, you know, a recipe for problems. And that's what we want them to do too. We want them to pause and like take a moment, you know? So be present, don't react immediately, use the moment to communicate and to connect. Every moment, really, if we break it down, is like an opportunity to disconnect and distance or divide, or to unite and connect. And it can be really hard in certain scenarios and really easy in others, but the option is still there, always. The next piece, when we're guiding our subs, we get to provide feedback. And that can be done in so many ways. And this is, we really kind of just touched on it, but a woman, I mean, sometimes we're not very clear and direct. It's not even a bad thing. It doesn't need to be a bad thing. I think we can all benefit by learning how to be clear and direct. But I think there's some magic to these subtle ways that a feminine person or feminine being communicates and moves and shares her energy and gives her feedback. We often see maybe women that lean too hard on that side and they don't know how to communicate directly, and then they get mad when their partners don't understand. Like, I flinched a little bit in this direction. Didn't you know it meant this, that, and the other, and the thing last week, and the boom, boom, boom. And it's like, whoa, lady, hold on a second. But there are ways that we can communicate subtly, especially when we have a foundation of clear communication. However, yeah, we need to provide feedback, especially in the beginning. The more clear and direct we are with the feedback, the more clear we're going to see the response. The more potential there is for an actual change in step.
Glad you mentioned that, just how important that is in the beginning, because I'm just starting out. And so a lot of my relationships, they still feel new. And so sometimes there will be that like kind of something that needs correction, but we don't necessarily have like this long history of trust. And so it's been like a challenge to know like, okay, I want to point this out, but I also don't want this man to take too much offense and like not want to be open and not like let me see who he is. So it really has been a balance. Like being clear also for me is like my emotion is kind of in the back of it, like in the back seat. So not having my emotion like, you know, steer the way. And yeah, that's been working.
And it's still present. Like the emotion can still be there. It doesn't need to be like, get out of the car, right? Like it's still there. It's still part of it. As you were speaking, I realized that the more solid the connection and the more clear the communication is, the more space there is to communicate subtly. And that piece right there really is the foundation. Like that's what makes it healthy. If that foundation's not there and we're expecting somebody to pick up on these subtleties, that's no bueno. That's just, oftentimes very manipulative and also trauma trying to multiply on itself.
But yeah, that was really well said, because it's true. How can you be subtle with someone when they don't know? They don't know what to expect at all from you. Like everything is brand new. So.
Not very fair. That's not playing fair. Another number here that we can do as a Dom guiding our sub is super important. So important. Stay open. And as I was speaking earlier about, you know, sometimes these misuses of energy feeling very offensive to the feminine. That reaction piece is often to close up, to become defensive, to distance. And we need to be able to stay open. We need to keep our hearts open. We need to do our best to stay supple and soft and not harden and not put up walls. Because it's a lot harder, I think, to take down a wall than it is to put it up.
Yeah. And this is easier said than done sometimes. And especially for me, I'll find maybe sometimes I'll, get triggered by a sub and this anger comes up. And I don't want to like unleash all this fire on this man, right? There's some medicine here for me that I have to work through too. But sometimes the opposite feels like shutting down.
Yeah.
And that's why I really love the feminine revolution, like having you ladies, having somewhere to cycle that energy where it's not going to really like burn anyone. I think that's really important too. And that really helps in staying open. Not everything maybe can fit in the relationship. Maybe it's hard to find a harmonious way to like cycle things in the moment, but having somewhere to cycle that, and then you can always come back to the relationship kind of fresh and more clear.
Absolutely. And an important piece that I see here, because it's like one of the ways that I actually put up walls sometimes is like recently I had shared with Essie, I was feeling challenged, you guys. And I've said this more than a few times in the past week, like I feel like I am breathing fire. I'm gonna breathe fire. I had so much energy that I needed to cycle. And the reason it got to that point where I was like, I felt like a dragon that like, even if I coughed, I might like, whoopsie, there goes that hut. I wasn't open to letting some of those more intense emotions be communicated earlier on. And part of it is, like there's this fine line that we walk as doms, but really just like as humans. How can we show up for the people that we love and love them and support them and like not give them a dose of our medicine that's too much, but then also keeping in mind like holding back our medicine might be a problem too. We have to find that sweet spot, and I think it's a constant work in progress. And sure. Every relationship is different, and depending on the day it might be different. So that keeps it dynamic and fun. But yeah, we get to stay open and remain a source of love and a presence that these subs can feel drawn to and want to respect and protect. If we're on the defense and we're attacking and we're too closed, they're not going to feel connected. They're not going to feel like they can reach us or our heart. And it's hard to feel inspired to support something that feels too cold or too hard. And how are you going to protect a dom and all of her beauty and radiance and open-hearted softness? Because we have the tough side, we have the softness too. If she got all of her walls up already, like what are you going to do? Stand outside this tiny puny little knight in his underwear, like, rah, I protect you. No, we have to actually give our men something to protect and hold space for. And that's easier said than done. And that actually leads into another one of the ways that we can support our subs. We get to be the example of why. Why do they want to learn how to hold and harness this energy? Why is that important? And we are that. We represent that. It's what I was just talking about, the strength and the softness. When we're open and we share that, he has the desire for more of that and the passion behind, okay, I need to protect this. This is beautiful. This is sacred. This is holy. It's an honor that it's shared with me. I need to protect this. And this being the woman and her energy and that heart, but also the relationship, because that itself is its own entity that deserves and needs that support and that nurturing and that protection. It's also important that we teach instead of judge. And I understand, we're naturally making judgment calls all the time. Like there's a type of judgment that is important. But I think when we lean too hard in either direction, it can get us in trouble. And if a man does something, for example, uses his sexual energy or creative energy in a way that we, and I'm going to say like small judge as inappropriate, that's our moment to teach why. Like our right mind said, whoa, that wasn't okay. That was a judgment in a way, but we could like big judge and be like, oh, so that means that he's a piece of, and he's going to have a life like this, and this means this, and da. That's like ego judging and unloading and unraveling this, like something that does not need to even exist. That was just a creation made out of judgment by that woman or that dom, and it's not necessary. The small judgment is, okay, I observe this thing. So really it's more of an observance.
Sure. Observation.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. So really it's more of an observation. And then we get to take that observation and we get to teach our subs. And again, just remember, like men aren't often taught how to handle this energy. So we need to be compassionate with them. and offer them a space that is safe where they can grow, where he can learn, where he can make mistakes and try again. And that feminine piece coming in, we get to show unconditional love through this learning process and allow him room for progress without fear of losing our love or connection.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
I know. This is why it's like the best work even for us. Like, it's selfishly like the best thing I could do for myself, because it's this constant opportunity to open my heart and let more love in and share more love. And it's tough. It can be really tough.
Yeah,
but
you need a lot of compassion, a lot of empathy, a lot of self-acceptance, right? Because how can we accept someone else in, you know, whatever state they're in if we can't accept ourselves?
Patience.
It's a very virtuous position.
Yeah. Or it can be. And that's why the Femdom revolution, because when we're talking about men being responsible with this energy, like, okay, that's more of the focus right now in this point in our conversation. But the reason I'm so passionate about the Femdom revolution and what we're doing is because I've been in the Femdom scene 6 years, going on 7 years, something like this. And I, on one hand, can name doms that I look up to and that I'm like, yeah. Well, actually, maybe 2 hands now that I have you and Amaya. And it's like, I mean, maybe still 1 hand, actually. It's crazy. And I'm looking out here at the world of Femdom, kink, and BDSM, and I'm like, dude, there are women really doing men dirty and manipulating them and draining them and just beating them down because they can. Because they have this power that is their sexual creative energy, and they're using it destructively. Again, if you haven't heard our last podcast, our last episode, go listen, because we dive into that a little bit more. But yeah,
it's really sad.
Yeah. And so this position is like, the role of a dom can be very, very different depending on where the woman is, and it may be less than virtuous for some. But in my world, in the world I'm working to create,
in our queendom,
yes, it really is. And I want to see more women rising into that, because I've experienced the benefits. I'm the woman that I am today because I've been in this industry and I've been doing this work. And I really am grateful to the kink scene and all the many subs of my past and present and future that have tested me and challenged me and built me up and made me cry angry tears, sad tears, happy tears, overflow love tears, all the kinds of tears a woman could cry. I mean, I've done it. And it's, go for it.
That brings up a question. Okay. Well, you said angry tears, and that, I guess, anger is on my brain right now.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So sub does a thing that you judge that's like, that is offensive in one way or in another. One way
or another. Oh, that was in the movie we watched last night. That's why it's on the brain. We watched Hocus Pocus 2 in the Discord last night.
It was really good.
It had a good message. It was so cute.
It was cute. Okay, so sub does something, you judge it to be wrong in one way or another, and you are triggered. You're up in your anger, and maybe you're actually in person with this sub, so you can't really like put it off till later. You can't really go cycle your energy with a friend. It's like, we're here. Do you have advice, like something that you do to like stay grounded, to stay open, to connect to your softness in those moments when you're like super duper tested?
Okay, that's a really good question. And some of this is like, I feel it in my body and in my energetic body. So this is going to be fun to try and put into words. Oh, Traveler's on camera. He smacked himself across the face. I have smacked this man.
That's true.
Many times.
Multiple times.
Yeah. Sometimes just for fun. But yeah, no, there was a time that I smacked him across the face. But that is like a very special case, because let's hold that for a second. But yes, there are ways to cycle that. And oh my gosh, this right here is unpacking like a whole other conversation that I really want to dive into. But for now, in general, say we're not in a scene and it's more like we're in like a vanilla space. And even if we are in a scene and something comes up, there are a couple of things that can happen. I think I have this capacity to a certain point where I'm very clear in what my role is. And so it kind of gives me like this buffer loading zone where like I can handle more than I would usually handle in like a very close personal relationship. I know I am extra super duper responsible, which I guess I should be all the time anyways. But, there's a little bit more of a focus in those relationships.
So it's easier not to take it personally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the personal side will still be happening. So it's like there's almost like these paralleling experiences. And I really lean into the Dom side.
Mm.
I lean into, okay, I'm space holder right now in the same way to compare it to this, but it's like medicine ceremony, for example. I don't know who's listening might have experience with medicine ceremonies, but you can imagine, picture a shaman. I'm just going to say ayahuasca because I think most people are familiar with ayahuasca or like the idea of it. If they're in a ceremony, you're kind of trust that they're going to stay in shaman mode and they're not going to be like in just homie mode and just pop down next to someone and be like, what's up, dude? And ignore everybody else that's in ceremony. Or, you know what, I'm hungry. And then feed themselves in the way that they personally might enjoy. Because actually, when most people are in ayahuasca, they're not hungry. But shamans don't drink that much. Maybe they do get hungry. But I'm so glad they don't leave in the middle of ceremony. So I feel like, there's a part of me that's like, I'm holding this position. I really need to stay strong there. And there are some roots there. And every time I lean into that space, when I need to, I think it helps to put the roots down. But then the other piece that, and you've seen this too, like the communication, and we're gonna talk about that again and again as well. I, even when it doesn't come out gracefully, or I think it doesn't come out gracefully, I do my best to communicate where I'm at. Something that comes to mind is that time that, okay, so we're in Texas. Let me set the stage for you.
Texas.
We loved our Texas tour. It was so fun. Oh, we have a little vlog on that on the Patreon too. You can go enjoy it. But we're in Texas. We have a movie night every third Thursday. And we host that in the Discord. We have more movie nights, but that's the one I will definitely be there. And it happened to fall on a day that we had 2 subs staying with us. And I don't know what was going on that day. I think I was just very sleep deprived. It had been a very big journey for us. 2 weeks, around the tail end of 2 weeks, pretty much. And I was beat. I was so tired. It got to the point in the day where I was just like, you guys probably know this feeling. My brain's not braining. I'm barely making it through. I'm not thinking straight. Words don't sound like English. I still have to function. I'm still trying to do stuff.
Yeah, making popcorn.
Yeah. And I love making kettle corn for movie nights. So I'm like, okay, I start making this kettle corn, which I'm also in a kitchen that I don't know very well. So I'm looking around for stuff. I'm doing this stuff. We have 2 men in the house speaking so loud.
Oh, yeah.
They're yell talking. And not only, I love you guys, but sometimes they're even just talking over each other. And this was a thing for me on that trip to Traveler Remembers, where I'm like, yo, you guys really have to one at a time. Because if multiple people are trying to talk to me at once, it already makes my wires want to cross.
How did you say that?
You
would say it in a really funny way.
Yeah, I said I was about to tune into the Discord. So we were going to also have people on speakerphone talking. And I said something to these guys like, okay, just so we're all aware, I am feeling grouchy. I'm tired. I'm not thinking straight. Something like this. I really would appreciate it if we could just talk one at a time. Also consider the fact that we're going to be on call in the Discord and hangout. So this is all one thing. I can't be having a million conversations happening at once. I know I'm one person. I know I have 2 ears, but I am one person. and then I went and made my popcorn. And the tone shifted and there was a little bit more space. It was a little less chaotic. It still felt a little chaotic to me, but nowhere near how much it felt before that. Now, all of this is just a funny way to say I do my best to communicate where I'm at. So even if, sub does something maybe I perceive as, oh, that's off. I feel the thing. I do my best to lean into the Dom side. That's space holder, responsible one.
Not there to lash out.
Yeah. And then from that place, feel my more personal side and let that come through. Speak that, but ideally through the channel of the one who's not taking it personally. So it's the very personal side, the objective side, and trying to marry the two. And it, sometimes easier than other times. And that's that thing with that buffer loading zone. If that space gets too full and cluttered, then it's a lot harder for me. But if it's one thing or 2 things or something comes in, we clear it, it goes out, cool. But if too many things pile up there, then that's a bit more challenging to navigate. But that also highlights the importance of us addressing things as they come up and not letting them really build. And obviously, it's also not fun either to have to address every single thing every single time. We do need to lay off of that. At least I prefer to lay off from doing that because that just sucks. Like literally sucks my energy, my time. It's not fun. I'm not here to micromanage. And it also robs the sub of the opportunity to learn that himself. I'll let sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4 things come in and I'm like, okay, so it's in that buffer loading zone, whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. And instead of like attacking each one as it comes in, if I let a few pop in, a few strikes over the course of who knows how long, it could be an hour, it could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month. And then I can actually kind of see the theme.
Yeah, it's kind of like a pattern or something.
Yeah.
It's a little clear.
Yeah. And then I can speak to that pattern. And then maybe that actually clears up those things moving forward instead of it being like this micromanaging, very not fun way, at least for me, to go about things. It can be this overarching way of working. I'm like, is it top down, bottom up? Maybe top down. I don't know, but it works. And that's my approach. And maybe everybody has their own way of going about that. But yeah, and now to bring it back to what Traveler said, because he's gotten smacked across the face. To be clear, that was the first time that Traveler had visited and our first time in person.
Yeah,
And
I've got some stuff to say about that one.
yeah. Okay, I do want to hear that. I'm gonna set the stage a little bit though. So one of the things that he had mentioned, he was doing like classic new sub stuff. He's blushing. But where it's like he's very, very excited for like all of the we'll just call them like the classic Dom sub pieces and like the very sexualized, fetishized parts of what can be included in a Dom sub relationship. And we also have a lifestyle relationship. And for me, when it comes to lifestyle relationships, the relationship is the priority. And then the kink piece and the sexual piece, it's part of it. It's woven into it. But I don't think the relationship survives if that is the priority. So I do my best to keep our priorities straight. Traveler was kind of like pushing. He was pushing for it was very clear what he wanted, right? He's like so excited. He's in person with the Dom for the first time. I get it. And so he was doing the classic thing, like not even necessarily when we're just sitting down in conversation to talk about the things we're excited about. It would just come up out of nowhere, like bubble out of you. This is, again, the leaky piece that we'll touch on at some point. Oh, yeah. And then I would love to get slapped across the face. I don't remember how it came up, but you invited it. When you said, yeah, it's something you've really loved to try was face slapping. I'm making all these mental notes. Okay. All right. Yep. Okay. All right. And that trip was kind of intense for you for a number of reasons. But actually, you take the story from here. Yeah. I want to hear Traveler's side.
You want me to?
Oh gosh, where to even start? First of all, thank you to both of you ladies for sharing everything that you just did, because there was so much gold in what you both just shared, and I have so much to say. So thinking back to the beginning and before I really had a good grasp on my sexual energy, personally, I grew up without a father or without a strong masculine role model in my life. And I see so often in not just subs, but men in general, so many men don't have a good role model that teach them about their sexual energy. There might be this one birds and the bees conversation about sex that lasts a couple of minutes and the dad just says, hey, make sure you wear a condom. And that's the extent of it. But we don't really talk about sexual energy. And so what ends up happening is men end up learning from things like pornography or this toxic masculinity culture that we have here in the US, and they learn all these wrong ideas about sex and about sexual energy and what that's supposed to look like, especially when it comes to pornography. Because let me tell you, pornography, that's not what sex looks like in most cases.
Are you serious?
No way.
From what I've heard, at least, I wouldn't really know. But so I see these men, I look at some of my friends that are genuinely good people. These are nice guys. These are good men that just didn't have a role model. And so I think they have good intentions, but they never learned how to contain and control their sexual energy. And so what ends up happening is they get all these wrong ideas, and then, you know, here they are super nervous. They're at this party or a bar or something, and they approach this woman and they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say, and they end up making a fool of themselves and making the woman super uncomfortable, even though they had good intentions. But the way they express it, because they never learned, ends up coming out in this convoluted way that makes the woman uncomfortable. And typically she's just going to reject him, and he's not going to have any feedback. He's not going to know, hey, what did I do wrong here? I'm just going off of what I know. And so the
Or it
beautiful
just
thing,
gets written off as like, that woman was a bitch.
or
Like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. Mhm.
And so,
That introspective, reflective piece is often missing in those moments, especially if we put it off on the other person. Like, that woman was just so mean. She must have been having a bad day. And those things can maybe be true, but yeah.
so the guy's thinking, this woman's just a bitch, and the woman's thinking like, this disgusting pervert. And so no one grows from that experience or that interaction. And so one of the things that I think is really beautiful about the Femdom scene, especially when it's done right, or at least right in my opinion,
In my opinion.
is there is this constructive feedback. So to circle back to the story we were talking about, I feel extremely fortunate that Creatrix is the first Dom that I ever reached out to and interacted with, because when I look around at the Femdom scene, there is a lot of toxicity. In fact, I saw a post on Instagram today of a Dom saying something about how, it's so easy to get a man to submit, and they're so quick to forget their masculinity. And I'm thinking, why would you want that? Why would you want a guy to just give up his masculinity? And I think that's just because that's the culture, unfortunately, in a lot of the femdom scene.
Quick
So
little side note. It reminded me of this quote, and I might be misquoting it a little bit, but it was essentially, if it's at the expense of another, what you gained wasn't real power. So it's like these doms, again, like big fat air quotes, are playing this. They're having a power trip, and it's really sad to see it be at the expense of these men who really, there's a lot of potential there, and it can go one of two ways. And so there's work in holding that power and lifting these men up. And she's not wrong. Whoever put that post out, yeah, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to manipulate men if that's what you want, and especially if it's just taking from them and draining them. But it really takes a lot of work and love and intention to build a man up. And it is easier with these like feminine tendencies, and especially if you're beautiful, men prefer to look at and listen to beautiful women, and so that does make it easier. But one of those paths is a lot more easy, and it's usually a lot more destructive. So,
and sadly, I'm mostly speaking for myself, but I know that there's other subs that come to this from the same avenue. And essentially at the time, I didn't think highly of myself. I was not in a good place. I thought I was worthless. And so I wanted a beautiful woman to essentially take advantage of me, tell me I was a piece of shit, to get off on that. And so again, I feel extremely fortunate that our paths crossed, because you took it in a completely different direction. And I'm very grateful for that. So in the beginning, we had established a relationship. We had talked for some time. And when it finally came time to meeting you in person, of course, I had a lot of nerves, and I had a lot of fantasies about what that was going to look like. And I didn't have a good grasp or understanding of my sexual energy at that time. And so I gave way into fantasizing and thinking more of the sexual things and of the more things that happen in scene. And so, of course, I wasn't as aware or conscious of this, but when we met, you saw right through that. It was clear as day what was on my mind, even though I was trying to be, on my best behavior. it was still seeping through the cracks because I wasn't conscious of it myself. And so that put us in a position where we're out doing things, went to dinner, and I wasn't present for those moments because my mind was elsewhere, thinking of, when are we going to get to the fun part? When are we going to get to the kink part? When really I should have just been grateful that, hey, here I am spending time with this amazing woman. My mind was elsewhere and I wasn't even conscious of it. I think you let me get away with it for a little while until it kept coming.
I was tracking you the whole time, tracking you. Like, oh, okay, there it is again. Oh, okay. Yeah. And there it is again.
And it kept coming up and it kept coming up. And you probably were trying to be a little subtle about it at first. And that wasn't getting the point across until finally it reached the point where you had to smack some sense into me. In retrospect, at the time, I was shocked. I didn't see it coming.
Okay, I'm going to give a little more details here. So the day of the smack, we went on an adventure. We had a really cool, adventurous day, and it was Traveler and I and a really good friend of mine who's like a brother. So it was like really, really special for me to have these two men that I love spending time together. Like, that was really cool. Well, Traveler was having a hard time staying focused while we were having this meal together. He kept checking his phone, and every single time I was like, disrespectful. I'm thinking that, right? I'm not going to over the table be like, the boys were talking, in the middle of talking, be checking his phone. And I remember when we finally were alone in the car after that, I was like, I don't remember what I said, but it was essentially like, what are you checking your phone for? Like, what is this about? Why can't you be present with us? I basically asked you if it was because you were feeling like you wanted to get home and get to the sexy time stuff. And more or less was that, no? And so Traveler, who knows how long after we had this conversation, which was a pretty charged conversation, because I was sharing with him like how much it pained me that, okay, you want to go deeper with me, but you're not being present with me here. I can't go deeper with you if you can't be present with me here. And then we're in the car, and then he just checked his phone, put it right back down, so it was just clearly a time check. And I reached over and...
You're forgetting the part because I had asked you that if we were going to have time to hang out when we got back.
Oh.
And that's why I kept checking the time, because I was like, we're running out of time. We're not going to have time to hang out.
Yeah, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I was having such an amazing day. We really had such a good day. And rewind a little bit, because we were at the table. I did say something at the table with the three of us. I said something like, are you anxious? Like, are you in a hurry to go somewhere? Like, how are you feeling? And then my friend asked me, how was I feeling? And I was like, I'm very content. I'm very happy to be here with you guys. And it was the contrast with Travel over there, like, oh, I want to go get on my knees. Who knows what was going through your mind? But I do remember saying very clearly, like, I am so content and happy to be here right now. I'm not in a rush to go anywhere. And then the more you checked your phone, unbeknownst to you, the more you did that, the more I was like, yeah, no, I'm even more chill here I'm even more content staying here for a while longer. Give me another drink. I don't know if I drank that day, but that place has really good drinks. So I always think about it when I think of that spot. But yeah, okay. So then you got a smack. And it was fast.
After this big long talk about the whole time check thing.
And I'm driving one hand.
Driving?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But back a really, really slow back road for context, people. Okay. I'm going like 5-10 miles an hour, maybe.
Like, I'm just seeing you down the highway.
Yeah.
Well, and we had just finished talking about it. And then not even a minute later, I checked my phone to look at the time. And I never saw it coming. She, gets me good. But that's, in retrospect, that's what I needed, because I was so unconscious of what I was doing that I needed that smack to really bring me back to that present moment, because my mind was so elsewhere. that I wasn't present to even really, I heard what she had said, but I didn't understand it because I wasn't present for it. So that smack really brought me back to that present moment, and it startled me and it felt really sharp in the moment. But kind of going back to what you two were talking about earlier about staying present and providing feedback, is you follow that up with compassion and with feedback, explaining, hey, look, like I'm trying to teach you something here, and you're not staying present for it enough to even hear what I'm saying. And so the reason that you got smacked is because you needed to wake up. You needed to come back to this moment.
Yeah.
And it was, like I said, in retrospect, it was a really beautiful thing. And it was a learning experience. And it helped cultivate that awareness of, one, I need to be present in this moment. And two, I need to be aware of my desires and my intentions and my energy. Because even if I'm not aware of it, women tend to be very intuitive creatures, especially women like yourselves that are in this line of work, tend to be very intuitive creatures. And so men that don't have a good grasp on their energy, believe me when I say women can tell. You reek of this leaky sexual energy, and it's extremely off-putting. So the one thing that you want more than anything, to be intimate with a woman, you're essentially pushing that away before you even get the chance to go down that road. You're pushing them away before you even start. And the only way you're going to get to those moments of intimacy is when you can be present and when you can be aware and conscious of your energy.
Really,
So
like,
yeah, and that's
appreciating what you already have, right? And I think that was one of the things that I know that was one of the things that came up, because I remember being in the car with you that day and you being like, I want to have time with you. I'm like, what is this? Like, we're together right now. So as all the time that we're spending, that's not doing this very erotic thing that you might have in your mind, is that not us spending time? Because what that sounds like to me is that my presence and all of the love that I'm pouring into these moments is not valued. And so what then is like the natural course of action is, for me, would be to put that time and the energy and love someplace where it is valued, right? And so obviously I'm not gonna be like, give me all that time and energy, goodbye, right? I love you and I adore you and I want to build with you. So like we need to smooth out whatever that is so that we can value and appreciate what we're giving and honor that. And it's that same piece with that sexual energy too. Having that energy build, if that honoring is happening on that level, you can honor that energy within yourself. And it would be a dishonor in that moment to use it to lash out or hurt another, even if it was in a more subtle way, like checking the phone, because that was the dick. The dick was driving that at that moment. But the honoring of that energy would be like to hold that and appreciate the fact that there will be a time to share that. And when you can hold it and share it at the appropriate time, it's way more likely to be appreciated too. And so it's like an honoring of our energy on a much bigger level. And that's the opportunity that we have in these kind of dynamics, is to practice that. And that'll permeate all areas of our lives.
And that's something that I really think separates the Femdom revolution with pretty much the rest of the Femdom scene is, and I'm just guessing here because obviously, like I mentioned, you're the only Dom that I've really had any interaction with. But I feel like a lot of Doms, they have clients that are going to pay for a scene. They show up, they do the scene, they leave, and that's it. And the fact that you prioritizing actually connecting with someone first and foremost and developing this connection with someone before you ever even approach the idea of a scene makes that so much more valuable, have so much more depth to it. And so the fact that here I was, unconscious of really what I was doing and how it was being perceived, and you in the moment rather sharply brought it to my attention, but then you followed that up with feedback and showed me how to correct my behavior and showed me why this happened and showed me why it made you feel the way that it did. So I could actually learn from it and realize, like, whoa, I didn't even realize that I was putting this pressure on you and basically grasping for your energy. So that's how you followed it up with feedback, and you stayed open instead of just writing me off and being like, okay, this guy, all he wants is sexual things. You actually stayed open to the possibility of me growing and learning from the experience. And I'm so thankful because, yeah.
You reminded me of another really good point for the Doms. So one of the ways that we support our subs is by being willing to be uncomfortable. Because that conversation, that drive home, and by the way, you guys, I live in the boonies, and actually you weren't coming home to my home, but even your Airbnb was kind of in the boonies. We had a long drive, and there was tension. There was a lot of tension. And I remember very clearly, like, being so uncomfortable at some points where it's just like, you guys know that feeling where you're just like, I just want to be so done with this conversation, but it's not time for the conversation to be done. And so, okay, like, I'm going to be here. We're going to do this. But it was not an easy thing. And it's love that carried us through it, and like dedication, because wow, like if that wasn't there, it would be very easy to be like, shut up, we're done, but there's love there. And we have to be, as Doms and as leaders and as guides for our subs, be willing to go to that place that's really uncomfortable and sit in that, because our subs likely need to be there for certain things to happen and like certain processes to be completed or even initiated sometimes. And if we're unwilling to be with them in that space, don't get me wrong, there are some processes that we really do need to do on our own, more or less. But if we're not willing to be uncomfortable at all, we can't actually expect our subs to make it through those moments because they don't have an example. And sometimes we need to be the anchor. I know it's hard. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's confronting, or I know it's scary, but we are here. And we can't say we are here, I'm here with you, if we're not actually there with you. So we have to be willing to do that. And it's in these processes with our subs. But the only way that we can do that with them is if we're doing that with ourselves too. So we have to be willing to be uncomfortable and sacrifice like our comfort at times. So go ahead, Traveler.
It would have been so easy for you to just put up a wall and leave it at that and essentially write me off. But you stayed open and present for that uncomfortable moment, which allowed both of us to grow. I think that's a really beautiful thing, because that's how growth happens. Growth happens in those uncomfortable moments. And it gave me the opportunity to grow and to learn and to change my behavior.
I think that's part of the nature of being open too. I have to be open enough in that moment to know what I should do, because in some scenarios it might actually be, okay, this is a determining moment and this isn't for us. That's one possibility, not necessarily with you, but with anybody. And also be open enough to know when it's the time to be like, wow, all right, we're going into the pits together. And we're going to, all right, underworld journey, right? We're going to do this. And that's part of the being open, because if I were closed in any way, we probably wouldn't be here.
And on both sides too. Because for you, Traveler, if you weren't open and her criticisms allowed you to like close up and think, no, she doesn't know what she's talking about, I'm presenting myself a different way and blah, 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 you wouldn't have had room to grow. You would have had your own wall there that you couldn't have grown through. So it's such a treat to hear you guys talk about these experiences you've had with each other, because man, it's just really packed full of heart. And I just really appreciate how open you're both being. And it's really beautiful. Just feeling grateful, like Traveler, that you found your way here. There are so many places someone could go for a quick kink fix, right? We're not necessarily doing it the most easy way, because we have our intentions. Our intentions go much deeper than that, and because we do put the relationship and that connection at the forefront. And so I just feel so grateful for you and like all the other subs that we have that are really ready to take this step. and ready to come in closer and work on these things with us, because we wouldn't be able to do the work if we didn't have these men that were ready to do it with us. So yeah.
And I'm so thankful as well, because there's probably so many women that would have happily taken my money, smacked me around, and sent me on my way, and I wouldn't have learned anything from it. And the fact that we're able to intertwine the kink, but also growth and learning, is a really beautiful thing. And the fact that Creatrix was able to stay open and have compassion in that moment, despite being uncomfortable, prevented me from putting up a wall. Because, if she would have just smacked me and scolded me and then said, shut up, I'm taking you back to the Airbnb and this is it, like, pack your bags, I would have been terrified to ever make a mistake again.
Yeah.
But the fact that she had compassion and was like, hey, you crossed the line, this wasn't okay, but don't be hard on yourself. You're learning. This is an opportunity to grow. That prevented me from putting up walls and closing myself off and being afraid to ever make a mistake again.
So that's highlighting again what we talked about in the beginning, having that softness, even in the correction. And look how beautifully it worked out there. Look at our traveler.
And I love that it comes back around. So the soft dom is going to be a topic.
Oh yeah.
But it's so funny because soft dom, there's probably this superficial, what people think a soft dom is and looks like. And then there's a deeper layer there to what a soft dom is.
It almost sounds like an oxymoron. I think of dom as being strict and hard, and soft and dom almost seem like polar opposites, but they don't have to be.
Yeah, and actually a soft dom might be one of the most fierce, but like with compassion. And that can come off in so many ways. Soft does not mean like you can walk all over this dom.
I've definitely heard you spit some fire.
I've got bars, guys. No. All right, so let's wrap this episode here. Make sure to join us on the next episode. And if you're interested in chastity, why don't you join us in the Locked Boys Traveler? Tell us about that.
Yes, we have a Locked Boys chastity group on the Discord. If you're not in the Discord already, you definitely need to get over there. But it's essentially a group of men that are practicing chastity. We all support each other. We have daily tasks that make it a little bit fun and interactive.
A little bit?
You. Tasks expertly, painstakingly, from the heart, created by your goddesses.
Super fun.
I'm downplaying it. Very creative and amazing tasks.
The thing is, Traveler, you aren't keeping up with the tasks, so you don't know.
Wow.
So you only have a little bit of fun because you're only doing a little bit of tasks.
This makes sense.
Yeah, but he's on like day 132 of chastity, so I'm giving him a little bit of like leeway. Yeah.
Whoa.
I can barely believe it myself. Like,
yeah,
bursting at the seams.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's hosted by myself, Amaya, and Essie, and yeah, we have a blast. And it's open to beginners and also those who are experienced. So join us there. You will submit your applications. Currently, it is through each key holder. So Amaya has her chastity application. I have one, and Essie has one. But we might be working on a Femdom Revolution application to simplify things for you.
And if you're looking for a one-on-one session with one of the FemRev Doms, Creatrix, Amaya, and I all work one-on-one with our subs, and we are accepting applications. You'll find more information and the application that you need on our website, femdomrevolution.com.
Beautiful. And for the Doms out there listening, we are currently working on a sisterhood circle and mentorship program to support you in becoming your most empowered and radiant self, both in and outside of the Femdom dynamics. And again, this is open to new Doms and experienced Doms alike, or even women who just want to grow with us and maybe are not interested in the Femdom dynamic. That's cool too. We are still working on these offerings, so to be notified when we start launching, make sure you sign up on our website. We have a little banner that says, for the ladies. So enter your email there and you'll be added to a list to get updates to your inbox. And again, that is on the website, femdomrevolution.com. We will see you on the next episode.
See you next time.
Adios.